how is it relational trauma?
When we think of trauma, we think of a traumatic event, right? Some kind of life-altering, life-threatening event.
Yeah.
It could be a natural disaster, or it could be a car accident, a death of a loved one, an abuse like we're talking about now.
Yeah.
But when I say relational trauma, it's a trauma that has occurred in relationship to another person. And in this case, in trafficking, it would be the trafficker,
Right.
Whether that's a parent or a caregiver, a loved one, someone that they thought, was a partner. So when I say relational trauma, it's some kind of trauma that has occurred at the hands of another person.
In some kind of trust relationship.
Right.
Which is the core of it, that someone you trusted. Hello and welcome to The Movement, a podcast to resource, empower and develop leaders in the fight against human trafficking. Today we have a very special guest, Shani Bacy. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Shani, I have known you around the anti-trafficking space for a while. How did that begin for you? How about you tell us what you do, who you are?
Yeah, so my name is Shani Bacy. Currently, I'm a social worker. I've been doing anti-trafficking work for about 15 years now. And I started off as an educator.
Like a teacher?
A teacher, yes.
Okay.
So I taught kindergarten.
That's a fancy word for teacher.
Yeah, that's what we call it, educators.
Okay, all right, cool.
I think it's also other professions within education, teachers, principals, administrators, umbrella.
So you were teaching?
I taught kindergarten. I taught 8th grade. And actually on one of my holiday, the school vacations in the summertime.
The best part of teaching, by the way. I have a friend who's a teacher.
Yeah.
Like those long breaks.
They're nice. And when I transitioned into social worker, I thought that maybe I would really miss it. And I do, but I enjoy the work that I do so much that it doesn't feel as heavy as I thought it would be, missing that.
So you were traveling to where?
Yeah, so on one of my breaks, I went to Haiti. I went to Haiti. I learned about trafficking there in Haiti, and that's when my eyes were really opened.
You saw it on the street? You heard about it? How did you learn about it?
So I didn't see it on the street. We were doing some relief work, working in an orphanage, and so we were just talking to some of the community members there. Yeah. And that's where I learned about trafficking. And it may have been even through some community members and maybe some other people who were there on the trip with us.
Okay.
So I came home and I was just fired up.
Yeah. This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. I didn't know. I felt kind of like, wow, this is happening, and I wasn't aware of it.
Did you learn it was at home?
Well, that's what happened. I came home preparing to maybe go back to Haiti or, what would be my next step, because I really felt called to get engaged. And that's when I learned that this was happening at home.
Right.
So I got connected with a lot of nonprofits, starting off as a volunteer, and also just a learner. I was reading a lot, going to lots of conferences.
Wow, that's some heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. Did you feel particularly equipped? Were you like, because I know when I started, there was moments where you're like, I don't know.
No, I didn't. I don't feel equipped now. I just feel like it's something that I'm called to do. So even when I, do things, I'm really grateful that it's an opportunity that I get to participate in. I don't necessarily feel equipped now, and it certainly then, no. Yeah. But I wanted to be educated and contribute how I could, in whatever way that I could participate in, the efforts against trafficking. So
it was a sense of purpose that started happening from Haiti where you're like, I'm hearing about this because I'm supposed to do something.
I definitely feel that that's the case, that I was exposed to it, and that for whatever reason, I just became so passionate about it that I chose to really just go, on this rabbit hole, a rabbit trail, trying to figure out more about it and how can I get a part, become a part of it.
What was your first volunteer experience?
So my first volunteer experience was with Redeem Ministries.
Oh, really? That's probably where I first came across you.
That's where we came across each other. Yeah. I went to a conference that was hosted by another nonprofit, but Redeemed was there. Okay. And so in my exploration phase of just learning about the nonprofit work that was going on, that's where I really got connected. Yeah. And Redeemed was the first one. As the educator, I had the summer break, and so I did an internship.
Oh,
and that's really how I, went, and I was super nervous. So being equipped, no, I'm like,
you're in the very deep end, but the deep end is always the deep end.
Right. So I just jumped in and I participated in the internship in whatever capacity the directors at the time had me participate in. So
Were you on site? at their
Yes, so
their
that I
home?
was super nervous. I was on site at the home. It was the first time. Well, honestly, it probably wasn't the first time that I had met someone who had been victimized by trafficking, but it's the first time that I knew.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, and now that we know how prevalent it is,
Right.
we're engaging with people who experience this, all the time.
All the time. That surprises me when we do different events. People who identify, some who have never identified till that moment.
Right.
But when you describe it, they're like, well, that sounds like me. And from your experience, that's a long, long journey of discovery. But yeah, it's amazing how prevalent it is. Yeah.
Right.
So then you go in the house, and I'm interested in your progression so deep, because this has been your life. What were you learning as you got in the house? What were you experiencing? What was going through your mind other than the difficulty of the subject?
I mean, I was learning a lot of things. I mean, I think what was something that stands out is that these are people.
Yeah.
These are people that I'm friends with, some of them.
Yeah.
And so that was my
Isn't that
first
wild?
realization, is that these are people that I can connect with, that I can relate to. And even something super surprising to me was I met someone in that house who lived in my neighborhood, as a child. But I didn't know that was happening so close to me. So a lot of people say it's close to home, but I think just understanding the humanity, those who, we're working towards, I think just showing up is something that I learned too. Like you mentioned, was I equipped? And I don't know that anyone will be. Maybe they will.
Well,
but
you're equipped because you're a human being.
Right.
And you know how to relate to other human beings.
Exactly.
And it's amazing. As I watched in those about the same time probably, I watched people struggle to be in the room with someone who had that life experience of being trafficked, and I'm like, what is going on with them? That surprised me that was a challenge for people, which says for Beth and I and you as well, is like, apparently this is something we can do. It's an empathy level really of being able to connect with human beings as human beings and go, I think it's something I said to someone early that they quoted back to me. I didn't even remember saying it. But I've met someone who had been through this, and they started telling me their story, and I said, please know that you don't have to tell me your story, because you are not your story. That happened to you.
Right.
And I somehow that clicked in my head really early. I think you had a similar experience.
And even like I progressed in the field and the work, I do a lot of hiring too.
Yeah.
And people would come with social work degrees, and sometimes they didn't. But it was really just their level of like the ability to connect with someone else. I think in trauma work we say relational trauma is healed in relationship.
Yeah.
And so
I like that.
Yeah, just can you connect? Can you empathize? Can you sit with someone, like you said?
And you're saying something that is natural to us after these years, but to the average listener, relational trauma.
Oh, okay.
How is it relational trauma?
When we think of trauma, we think of a traumatic event, right? Some kind of life-altering, life-threatening event.
Yeah.
It could be a natural disaster, it could be a car accident, a death of a loved one, an abuse like we're talking about now. Yeah. But when I say relational trauma, it's a trauma that has occurred in relationship to another person. And in this case, in trafficking, it would be the trafficker,
right.
Whether that's a parent or a caregiver, a loved one, someone that they thought was a partner. So when I say relational trauma, it's some kind of trauma that has occurred at the hands of another person.
In some kind of trust relationship.
Right.
Which is the core of it, that's someone you trusted.
Right.
So that's a big step for a lot of people to know that that's what trafficking is. There's the misconception of people being grabbed and chained up or whatever, all those things that may have happened at some point to a person, but is not the common experience at this point.
Right.
So yeah, it's important for people to learn that. Yeah. So you come through Redeemed, you go from volunteer to staff, I assume?
I did. I worked in the residential safe house, also an emergency shelter.
There was an emergency shelter, I remember that.
Yeah. So
How was that? That's the frontline. Please explain what that is, maybe for people.
So the residential program was more of a long-term, what people know as a safe house.
Yeah.
Where people who have been trafficked or exploited find respite, live long-term, and get access to care, therapy, and all of the things that they need to get back on their feet.
Yeah, and then you said, what was the other description?
And the emergency shelter or the assessment center would be where an individual who is more immediately being removed from a trafficking situation.
So it happened right now, and this is my first stop?
Right, a first stop, or where they need to go to basically escape that situation, and then what we call like triage or assessing.
Okay.
What are the next steps? Maybe a safe house or residential is the next step, or maybe it's just getting them back home to family or helping them, move into some other form of housing or care. And so the emergency shelter, like you mentioned, was like the first thing that oftentimes individuals who are leaving their situation first stop, basically.
Okay. So where did you go from there?
Oh, man, I went to the sheriff's office. So that was such an interesting transition.
Slightly different environment. Same population.
Yeah. So I was doing, we call it court advocacy and case management with people who are detained. So that would be people who they've been charged with prostitution, but they're victims of trafficking,
right?
Which is a common occurrence, right? That people are being criminalized for, what's happening to them.
Right.
So I was working inside of the sheriff's office with these individuals who had experienced trafficking, but also had a prostitution-related charge, and were needing court advocacy and help. Okay. And so that's where I transitioned to. Super interesting. It certainly opened my eyes to all of the ways that trafficking intersects with all of these other social issues. So that's where I ended up next after Redeemed.
Wow. And then what?
We're
just going to go through the whole list.
Yeah, we'll just go through the list.
You've done a lot. It's what's interesting is your story and the different experiences. And just to understand that the work you were doing in the sheriff's office, it was trying to help people not get the charge. Is that accurate? Or is it to say, like, this was trafficking? Are you trying to clarify for the court you need to understand the context?
All of that. So advocacy in general, advocating on behalf of this person who has been victimized. So yes, helping them understand that this person is a victim, not a criminal or a perpetrator. Also helping these individuals as they leave the jail, because really they were in jail. Yeah. So where would they go next? I would help them find maybe a place like Redeemed or another treatment facility, or helping them transitioning out of jail, maybe into substance use treatment too. Right. But yes, going to court, explaining kind of the situation. Does it happen that the court understands and then says, oh, we're going to create a different response to this because of what's happened to them? Or does that not happen much, and it's generally... I think it's work that's still being done, right? Yeah. Helping raise awareness to, criminal justice professionals, court systems, about what trafficking looks like and how it intersects with criminality. And so a lot of the advocacy work was helping them understand what's going on, explaining the situation. So I think some courts are doing the work, and I think there's more awareness. Certainly, still more to do. But sure. That was the role at the time. Okay, so next step. Next step from there, I ended up a good friend. That's good to have a good friend. Have a good friend. Yeah, after a while, when you're doing this work for so long, so many people, and it's a tight-knit community, and she reached out to me and said that there was a position at an organization here in the Houston area called The Landing. Wow, great organization. Yeah, and she wanted me to come basically help her develop her programs. Ah, good. And so I wasn't looking for the opportunity, prayed about it, thought about it, interviewed, and that's where I transitioned from the sheriff's office. So I transitioned to it was a drop-in center. Yeah, you maybe describe a bit of how that looks and where it is. Yeah, so a drop-in center is a place where people can go that have been exploited. I think one of the beautiful things about the organization is it's working with people who are still being exploited. Right. So very low barrier, meaning it's not hard for them to gain access to the services. They don't have to leave a trafficker at the moment, because that's a hard decision for many people. Yeah. They can access services just as they are. So the come as you are kind of philosophy. I love the way they are, by the way, about all that, how they match even people, to help you, that whole, wherever you're coming from, we're going to find the best person to support you. I love that. Yeah. And so that was a beautiful part. I fell in love with that mission of working with individuals who may still be in their circumstances. And when you're working with victims of trafficking, oftentimes they do what we call relapse. They may end up going back into an exploitive situation for a number of reasons. Yeah. But the Landing was a place where, and still is a place where they can still receive care no matter where they are in their journey of leaving trafficking. So I was there for about 7 or 8 years, I think.
It's a long time.
Yeah. And
it's funny because most jobs you're like, you can go for many years, but I think in most of these places there's an element of stress in every situation where there has to be something different happen, you know. And you're staying in it. I mean, you're still in the space, but I think that change is probably necessary.
I think it's necessary, and it's important for like the places of employment to take care of staff, right, and to make sure we're understanding and we preparing to care for the people who are doing the work.
Yes,
too.
which maybe we'll go deeper on that, but I assume that means you have to have breaks, you have to have therapeutic help, I imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what? Where is this? Where you are now?
So I've transitioned, and in this, I've also gone back to. I went back to school. Nice. After being an educator, I became a social worker.
Yeah. When did you do that? In the middle of the last 8 or the 8 and
yeah, while I was at the landing, I was in school too.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot, but that's what I did.
You wanted to do it, so
I wanted to do it, and I was, fortunate enough to be in positions where the degree likely would have been helpful beforehand, but I was just following what doors were open for me.
Yeah. Did you find it that way when you're in there in the middle of the course that you start to go, oh, this would have been useful?
It would have been useful, it would have been useful, but, that was my path. And so I'm also really thankful for the path that I took. It was wild,
It's wonderful,
just kind of jumping in wherever I felt called,
Absolutely.
But I went back to school. And even in the course of the landing, we did a lot of nonprofit, like networking with other groups and even universities who were doing research. And so I ended up transitioning to a research institute.
Wow.
They were looking for someone who had the direct experience with victimization and trafficking.
You're highly valued at this point because not a lot of people have that experience. I mean, there's a lot of people know the subject but don't know the subject like you have experienced.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful for the, the direct experience, the nonprofit management experience.
Yeah. It is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
It's a very difficult world.
The cross-sector collaboration with law enforcement or the court systems. And so there's a lot of things that I'm thankful that I've had the opportunities to participate in that have, I think, probably equipped me to transition into, this kind of role.
So your current world looks like what?
Oh, my current world I do a lot of technical assistance and training for other nonprofits or even like system responses. So like, for instance, in Texas here, we have a system response for trafficking through the Office of the Governor. And so I do a lot of technical assistance, maybe not to Texas, well, some, but to other states that are maybe instituting some sort of anti-trafficking response, training on how to implement a grant program or training on how to write protocols for direct services. So I do a lot of that. I do some research too. So maybe we identify a subject that we want to know a little bit more about. Yeah. And so helping formulate what that research is, helping find partners in that, doing some of the interviewing, and then really trying to translate that into something that would be helpful for the field, helpful for people who are doing the work to better understand trafficking, better understand what we should be doing and how we can help.
So if someone is thinking about getting in this space, what advice would you give them?
Ooh, I don't know. It's so hard because I feel like my path was so unconventional.
Yeah.
I think for what I did is, what's your next best step, right? Like, if you are, and I love it right in, right? Yeah. You're a business professional, marketing professional, what can you do next? I think that's kind of the path that I took. It was just,
yeah, you were a volunteer.
It was just natural, You
knew you were interested.
Right, and I didn't know that I would end up in this full time for so many years.
I know.
So I think maybe that would be the advice. What's the next best step? Good. Getting educated. I was really eager to learn. To do well in this space, there is specific things you should do. I mean, there are things, learning about trauma-informed care. Oh, yeah. Pretty important, on that journey. And I'd say connect to organizations that are doing the work, right? Because we've learned. We've learned, we've done things wrong, we've done things right.
There's a lot of learning, for sure, and there's a lot of need. I don't think there's any organization that would turn you down if you wanted to get involved because they need the help. Right. Well, that's good. All right, well, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your journey, and I appreciate the work that you've done and all the people's lives who've been impacted because you chose to jump into this space. So thank you. Yeah, thank you. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.